Jedi Master Yoda sits in the foyer outside of Anakin's bedroom. His eyes were shut as he focused in on the Force. He could feel the turmoil inside of Skywalker, the emptiness of losing his wife. Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi entered the room and walked to Yoda's side. I had just got off the holocall with Rex. He's with Ahsoka. However, no word from the other Jedi. He looked to see Master Yoda still meditating. While Kenobi was physically blinded, the Force was his vision now. Maul has returned.
Yes.
Yoda confirmed, opening his eyes.
The darkness returned. It has.
Are the twins okay? Kenobi questioned.
Angry, they are. But blame them. I do not.
Kenobi sat beside his ally. Has there been any word from Anakin?
Skywalker. No.
He said, looking towards Anakin's door.
Since someone else, I do. Someone. Dark.
Obi-Wan looked towards the door. You sense Maul?
No.
The old master said, shaking his head.
Vader.
Vader. Kenobi took a second to absorb Yoda's words. He stood to his feet and ready to walk towards the door.
Going somewhere, are you?
Yoda questioned. Kenobi stopped in his tracks. Anakin shall not become Vader again. He looked to the ground. I wasn't there for him last time. I will not make the mistake again.
Sit, Master Kenobi.
Yoda said, patting the seat beside him. But he needs us, Master Yoda. We can't just sit back and do nothing.
Exiled, Skywalker, maybe. But strong, he is.
Yoda said, closing his eyes.
Up to Skywalker. It is.
Kenobi wanted to do something, but ultimately Yoda was right. No matter what he could say to Anakin, it was his decision. And considering his past, Anakin already knows the price of the dark side and what it can cost. He sat back down beside his Jedi companion. So we just sit here and wait? Yoda said, closing his eyes for meditation.
When ready, come to us. Skywalker will.
But what happens if Vader comes through that door? Yoda slightly slouched in his seat, with his eyes still closed.
Do what we must. We will.
Outside of the villa, Luke was charging through the forest, his tears blurring his vision. He fell to his knees and kept picturing his mother dying over and over again. He lifted his arms and his lightsaber hilt flew to his hand. He ignited the blade and began slicing through trees and rocks in anger. The more he destroyed, the better he felt. And that just fueled his hate even more. Suddenly, a baby Nina crossed his path. He looked to the tiny creature, anger still in his eyes. It felt good to destroy, he thought to himself. But if it felt this good to destroy, how would it feel to kill? He looked at his lightsaber, then back to the creature. He lifted his blade in the air and brought it down quick in anger. Only instead of chopping the beast in half, his blow was blocked by another lightsaber. Leia's lightsaber.
Luke, what are you doing?
She questioned. Mom's dead, Leia. She's dead, Luke said, pushing his blade off his sister's.
I know, Luke. I'm mad too, but we can't take our anger out on other beings. That's the dark side, Luke. Remember what Dad said?
Luke cut in. I don't care what he said. He just went to the bedroom right after watching Mom die. He didn't say anything to us. He just gave up, Luke said, turning away from Leia, his lightsaber still drawn. We need to strike back. Now. We need to avenge Mom.
Luke!
Leia said, trying to talk her brother down.
That's not you talking. It's your anger, your hate. It will destroy you, Luke.
Enough, Leia, Luke said with rage in his eyes. I'm tired of you always being in my way. You and Dad were always holding me back. If I was allowed to be stronger, I don't know, maybe I could have saved her.
Saved her? Luke, Coruscant is gone. No Jedi is that strong. Not even Dad could have saved her.
Shut up! Luke roared, launching an attack towards his sister. They engage in a brief lightsaber duel that takes them near the top of a waterfall where they lock blades.
Luke, the dark side is messing with your mind. Please don't let your hate consume you. It's not what Mom would have wanted.
As they glared into each other's eyes, Leia could see the fear of what her brother was becoming. It may have scared her, but she knew it scared Luke just as much. He began to use his superior physical strength to push his sister closer and closer towards the edge of a 50-foot cliff. I'm going to kill that monster, Leia. And if you're not with me, you're in my way! Luke broke through her block and force pushed her off the edge. Leia fell to the water below, passing out upon impact of the surface. As she began to sink into the water's depths, a hand grabbed her and dragged her to the water's bank. She opened her eyes just enough to see the person who saved her. It was Luke. He stood to his feet while Leia was slowly slipping back into unconsciousness. I'm sorry, Leia. But this isn't about the Jedi or Sith. It's about Mom. I'm taking Dad's old fighter and getting revenge, he said as he began to walk away. Maul dies today. Even if I have to do it alone. What's up, Net soldiers? Welcome to the discussion part of this video. So people have been asking me, why do I do the discussion section in these videos? And the reason for this is because they're not for everyone, and I realize that. If you want to stick around, you want to pick my brain, you kind of want to hear different reasons for why I wrote different like character motivations and story points, this is the part of the video for you. But if you're just here for the story itself, then you feel free to click away. You don't have to watch this part. Now that said, I have a bunch of different questions to get to. I'm gonna try not to make it super long, but whenever I say that, it usually turns out longer than it's supposed to be. Also, in the comments below, I'm gonna be doing timestamps for every single one of these questions. So that means if you're looking for a specific answer to one of these questions, you can skip some and like pick the ones you actually wanna watch. So there you go. Now that said, guys, let us begin. The first one here comes from Marine Battleship 1, and they say, can you bring in any Fallen Order characters? Cal would be a knight now. He was about the same age as Caleb Doom during Order 66. I guess I could do that. When I first started the story, Cal wasn't even a real character. In fact, a lot of events that we knew in Rebels, I think I started the story back around like season 3 of Rebels. I remember because the What If Order 66 that I did, the story that precedes this one, I killed off a character named Wolf, but we didn't actually find out until after I produced that whole story. I think it's like season 2 of Rebels where Wolf shows up, but until that point, Wolf was dead. So technically, it's right for me to have Wolf dead, but it's also wrong because he's in canon still alive. So I'll have to maybe retcon that at some point. I'll have to George Lucas it or something like that. The next one's from Taro HGT3 HD, and they say, the Death Star wasn't finished and Maul didn't have the resources. How did he finish it? Okay, so you gotta remember that Maul comes across the Death Star. The Republic is saved. Palpatine's whole plan to build the Death Star and the kind of the secrets that go along with it. He had people who knew about it, of course, in the Republic, and who knew about the Empire's uprising very soon. You have to remember, while Anakin didn't actually kill any of the Jedi, like he does in canon, he did kill the Separatist leaders. So with all the Separatist leaders gone, there was kind of this place for him to just kind of slip right through, especially considering, you know, he's been Palpatine's apprentice for a while. I'm sure he's kind of learned some of Palpatine's connections and certain things about how to actually, you know, rule certain areas. And as we know, he becomes the ruler of like the bad guys, or I should say bad guys, the criminals of in the Black Sun and stuff like that. We find that out in the Clone Wars. So I just kind of adapted that character. So instead of having Maul just do that specific thing, I thought, you know, he would take advantage of the situation. With Palpatine gone, with all the Separatist leaders gone, he would kind of take control of the Separatist army that's just kind of sitting there not being used, right? Palpatine in canon dismantles it after Order 66, but as we know, Palpatine dies. So if Palpatine out of the way, that Separatist army is just sitting there, pretty much not in control by anyone. So of course, Maul being the opportunist person that he is, he would take that opportunity and take control of the Separatists, and that's how he's in control of the droids. If you think about it, if you're in control of that many droids, you could effectively, you know, secretly assassinate everyone who knew about the Death Star, or at least the origins of it and how to create it. And then you can make it however you want it to. I mentioned this in my last discussion segment of the previous video, but remember, this Death Star isn't the Death Star we know from canon. This is the more dangerous Death Star. This one is made to destroy, not as much to support life, as far as, you know, how there were a bunch of stormtroopers and, you know, you had all these different elements that you needed to pretty much keep, you know, engineers around, you needed to keep humans around. From its foundations, which were initially made to support a bunch of life, now they don't have to, because it's completely been developed by Maul, but he's used his droids to build it. So in order for him to pretty much make it however he wants, he has the Separatist army on his back, you know. And now, of course, as far as other Separatist leaders, I couldn't really say that they're around because they mostly got killed by Anakin, but Maul has the droids behind him, and he is somehow building more droids. We're going to eventually find out how he's building these more droids and being able to kind of create his own armies, but we won't know that yet. So you'll have to wait and see how he figured that out. So there you go. Next one's from Darth Prime, and he says, loving the series so far. So is someone like Tarkin in command of the Death Star, or does Maul have complete control of the battle station? Yeah, so pretty much we can assume Tarkin knew about the Death Star, right? And a bunch of other Republic forces knew about the Death Star previously, before Palpatine's death. And from that, you can assume while Maul took over the Death Star's construction, he would have made sure to pretty much take out anyone who had any knowledge of its construction. So as far as the story goes, Tarkin is already dead. He's been assassinated. And if not assassinated, he's in hiding. And yeah, he's pretty much probably dead. I mean, maybe I could bring him back at some future point for some type of story element, but for right now, he's probably dead. Moving on to our next one, we have Trevante Davis, and he says, which major Jedi was on Coruscant when it was destroyed, and do you have plan on bringing Kanan back? Okay, so we'll have to wait and see about Kanan. We know that was a pretty bad explosion. You know, the first rule of Star Wars is if you don't see a character actually take their last breath on screen, they might be alive. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Now, as far as the other Jedi go, yeah, the majority of the Jedi have been killed on Coruscant. We'll just have to wait to see which other ones survived. So moving on to our next one. This was initially a question that was already answered by somebody else. I'm just going to elaborate on that. So Jaquez asked, how come you destroyed Coruscant, not just the Jedi Temple? It surely would have made more sense. Charles Stewart says, I think Maul used it as an example for what happens to those who defy him. So pretty much, yeah, that's why Maul did it. Maul wanted to create chaos. Remember, Coruscant is the capital of the this galaxy, right? It is this place where all these leaders are meeting. You gotta remember, in the beginning of the story, there was this call of all the leaders of the planets to come to Coruscant for one big Senate meeting on the same specific day. Maul actually orchestrated this on purpose. He orchestrated all of these leaders from all these different planets to come to Coruscant so he could pretty much kill them all right there. And not only kill them, but destroy the entire planet. He did that on purpose. He wanted to bring all these leaders across the galaxy to Coruscant to kill them. So there would be no one to kind of stand in his way when he becomes emperor. And now there's going to be like a bunch of governmental shifts in the galaxy. He's now the Sith Emperor. He's claimed himself as Emperor. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the galaxy kind of deals with the fallout of losing their leaders and losing their capital. Moving on to our next one, we have Ari Mayer, and they say, since Maul could bring back Grievous, could he bring back his brother Savage Opress? So it is possible for Savage to return. I don't know if he will. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But for right now, with Grievous, it's different from other characters. So Grievous majority of him was a droid, right? The majority of Grievous was just a robot. And that's why Maul was able to kind of take Grievous and rebuild him into being a not only stronger, but also being like coded to follow Maul, no questions asked. And that's what he wanted to do. So in a way, Grievous was able to be developed into this, you know, lackey a lot easier because he already had the droid components about him. So it could be possible. Someone mentioned about Count Dooku coming back at some point. That probably won't happen, but it could be possible. You know, they could take Dooku's head and put it on a robot body. I guess we'll have to wait and see as the story develops. Moving on to our next one is Jacob Bear, and he says, what happened to Han Solo and the two Jedi that were with him? Okay, so that was Shakti and Plo Koon. We'll be finding out about them in chapter 11. So not the next chapter, but the chapter after that. So there you go. For our next one, we have from Philip Ritzman. He says, did you immediately know Maul would be the new big threat, or were there other characters considered for the role, potentially characters from Legends? So I didn't exactly know where I was going to go with this. That little teaser at the end of the what if the Jedi Council survived Order 66, that was supposed to just be a fun teaser. There was supposed to be no story after that. I just wanted to put that in there to make, you know, the fans go, whoa, what's that? I can't wait for the rest. But there's not actually supposed to be more. It's supposed to be just like a little fun teaser. But after getting hundreds of thousands of requests to continue the story, I decided to actually roll with that. So that's why Maul was chosen, because initially it was supposed to be just like a little joke at the end. But it turned into something serious, and people really seem to like him and like him in my story and think he's written good. So I'm glad I can do good by Maul. Second last one we have from ETC Vlogs, and he says, Ezra would be 19 by the time this was taking place, not 14 like the first season of Rebels. He was born near the same time Luke and Leia did. Okay, so this was a decision by me. I know that Ezra is the same age as Luke. And I know that it makes more sense for him to kind of be like older. I kind of have the younger Ezra in this story. And I guess he would be necessarily older, but I think because he didn't really face the hardships as much as he did when he was younger, while he is older, he's kind of like Luke in a way, you know, young, angry, and just kind of ready to just do, you know, ready to really follow his passion. And I think that's something that I wanted to kind of show as a parallel. And you actually saw in this specific episode, you see that parallel between Ezra and Luke, is that they're both very powerful. They're both still pretty much untrained, even though Luke does have a lot of saber skill training and some force ability training. In the end of the day, he doesn't really know how to fully control his power. And I think that's something that shows, you know, when the two gain their rage, they almost can't control it. It's that powerful. And I think that's something that I really wanted to show, not only in this video, but also in the previous ones, because it's going to lead up to the finale in an interesting way. And I think you guys are going to like it. So, yes, he's physically older, but he is still mentally younger than he would have been in canon, because he had less hardships, I guess you could say. Okay, and for our last one, this is from Mike Orr. He says, why would Caleb Doom change his name to Kanan Jarrus in Order 66? Never happened. Please explain. I mean, I've watched Rebels and I understand why Kanan took on his name, but why would he still do it if Rebels never happened? Okay, so I think I actually pretty much explained this in the last episode pretty well. Pretty much, Kanan is now named Kanan because the person who was Caleb Doom died with his master. You know, because while Order 66 technically failed overall, it didn't fail for a lot of other fighters. You got to remember, some of them didn't make it. As far as like the Jedi Council, they are the ones who survived Order 66, and the people in the temple, they survived. But as far as other Jedi who are out on missions, remember Ayla Secura, she died in that story too, because she wasn't on the Jedi Council, and therefore she didn't make it into the story, and so she died. And you know, if you weren't on the Jedi Council and you weren't covered in that video, you were just killed off screen pretty much. So you're assumed that any character who was on a mission on Order 66 did die from their clones. However, because Mace Windu made it back to the Jedi Academy, he was able to get all the kids out of temple, or not just the kids, but all the Jedi out of the temple so they didn't get killed. So there you go. That is kind of the explanation of that. So while Caleb survived Order 66, and while the majority of other Jedi technically survived Order 66, except for the ones that are on missions, his master didn't, because remember, they were on a mission when she died. So that's kind of the explanation to that story. So yeah, there you go, guys. Thank you for the questions. If you have any questions about this specific video, you want to pick my brain to see why I wrote certain things the way I did, feel free to leave questions in the comments below, and I might just answer them in the next video's discussion. But thanks again for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Please remember to like, subscribe, and turn notifications for more. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.